The views and opinions expressed during this show do not necessarily reflect the policy
or position of any affiliated workplace or employer. The views and opinions of the show do not constitute recommendations for therapy. Please
contact a licensed SLP for individual consult on your situation.
Please listen carefully.
What is communication?
An essential behavior of life. We have the both blessing and responsibility of trying to foster in others.
It's transmitting a thought from one person to another.
It's the strongest way for two people to convey information to each other.
The back and forth between two people.
Communication is a lifeline.
Just connection with other people.
Connecting people in terms of ideas or thoughts or needs.
Draws us out of ourselves, draws us into that relationship, builds up our families. Without it, we'd be lost.
Whatever it is that we do to express intent and achieve an impact.
Communication is the ability to express your needs, wants, frustrations, and desires to anyone that you feel needs to have that information.
Welcome to Speech Science, episode number 149, one episode away from 150. I'm Matt Hott, a school-based speech and language pathologist here in Ohio, also doing home health care with adults in dementia and stroke rehab, joined by the executive functioning guru himself, Michael McLeod in Philadelphia.
What's up, buddy?
Did you see Jalen Hurts almost got hurt by the stadium in Washington?
I did. Jalen Hurts, I am not an Eagles fan whatsoever, as you guys should know by now. He did handle that with some class.
For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, as he was walking off the field in Washington, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. The gate fell down right in front of him. And in the state of Texas, where we got to see University of Cincinnati go toe-to-toe against Alabama, but come up just slightly short, our pediatric SLP, Michelle Wintering.
How's it going, Matt?
Hey, your Buckeyes won.
They did. That I didn't even get to watch that game, but yeah, when I looked at the score, they were not doing so great, and then they pulled it out at the end. So,
and what makes it better, as a Buckeye fan, Harbaugh lost so bad for Michigan that I've heard the rumors that he'll be leaving Michigan to go coach the Chicago Bears in the NFL. So Jim gets his only win against the Buckeyes in 12 years and then gets trounced in a playoff game and quits.
Wah, wah.
How about, but one thing though, how about those Bengals?
Hooday, baby. We are in the playoffs for the first time since 2015, and we are on air for the first time in 2022. And I'm excited because on today's episode, Michelle, you had a chance to speak to PresenceLearning, correct?
I did. I know we've been kind of selling this an episode or two ago, and with the holidays, we've got a bit of a gap, but I was able to speak with Kristen from PresenceLearning again, who, if you remember, 3 years ago, I interviewed her about teletherapy. And then a year after that interview, less than, teletherapy obviously just majorly took off.
We had a pandemic.
Right? With the pandemic. So I had a chance to reconnect with her and find out about what PresenceLearning did and changed, and a new platform extension that they've created that we're going to be doing a giveaway for, actually.
Yes, and that website is giveaway.speechsciencepodcast.com. Go to there. You can put in your name and email address, giveaway.speechsciencepodcast.com. Also today, we're going to talk about the predictions thehill.com made about special education in 2022, some research on speech intelligibility, as well as checking in with the Informed SLP. We do have a due process and an SSPOD Shoutout, and of course our ASHA Spotlight. But before we do all that, I want to give you the digits and how to reach us. Make sure you head to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, and email us, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. And of course, the Discord is open, discord.speechsciencepodcast.com. Before we get to the current hosts, we are also in the process of accepting applications, air tapes, I guess, to get a fourth host on air, and those are due to us by January 24th. So find your favorite article and record yourself talking about it for somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. We have short attention spans.
Well, and like Matt said, don't worry about recording your face. We need to hear your voice. So
yes, you can record the wall and stand behind it and just record yourself just talking about the article and how it pertains to you in your field. It could be a research article. It could be something you saw in the National Enquirer and how you're going to use it in therapy. We want to hear how you sound on air. So January 24th, email those over, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. So let's check in with everyone. How was the holidays? Mike, you're at the top of my screen, so of course you'll go first. How was your holiday?
The holidays have been great. So we had the baby's first Christmas, which was very nice. She was able to kind of rip a little bit of the paper and then lose interest very fast. But of course, she got showered from gifts by both her grandparents. But it was nice. It was nice seeing family. This was right before Omicron really got kind of crazy. We all knew it was going to blow up after. So, of course, I tested myself before the holidays and was negative. So I was able to go and kind of lay low with the family. And it was nice. It was nice to get away. But I tell you, in this field, things pick up real fast. So it's almost like there was no. Today's Wednesday. We're recording on a Wednesday, and we've only been back for 3 days, and it feels like there was no vacation at all.
Yeah, I was super excited to go back, and now on Wednesday, you're right. I was ready to call a 3-day weekend in already. Did you see when you mentioned the testing for COVID? Did you see that some of the testing manufacturers have asked people to stop testing things that the test was not made to test for?
I think so.
What are they testing?
Milk, tap water, a couple other things, and they're like,
tests.
They're like, it's not going to show any good results because we can't guarantee there's no weird proteins in your chocolate milk, man. So, Michelle, how was the holiday down in the state of Texas?
I wasn't here. I went to South Carolina. Yeah.
Why?
Because that's where my husband's from.
Oh, okay, fair.
Yes, we were in South Carolina with family. Again, I know I told you all last time that my daughter she was born right before last Christmas, so she turned a year. And then
happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes, so Laurel is a year old, and she was able to meet Ohio family because she had only met grandparents until she was almost a year old or already a year old. In Ohio, she was able to meet my extended family, her aunts and uncles and cousins. And then in South Carolina, she was able to meet aunts, uncles, cousins.
Aww.
And it was really good. Just nice to have some connected quality time with family.
You said her name was Yanni?
Yeah, you got it. Exactly.
Nice throwback, Mike. Nice throwback. Her shoes are both green and blue.
There you go.
And her dress is both blue and gold.
Did you? So I'm guessing you got out of South Carolina before the I-95 shutdown this week.
Oh, I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, from Virginia to Florida, some people were stuck for 14 to 20 hours.
Weather, right?
Yep, 14 to 20 hours.
Cold. Yeah, terrible.
We came back before the new year, right after Christmas. So we missed any of the bad weather. I mean, it's been even cold here. I mean, it's been in the 20s, so watch out.
That's cold for Texas.
That's very cold for Texas. So, but yeah, it was back up to 65 today. So
wonderful. For me, our holiday, everyone had another Christmas because our youngest Evelyn was born back in September. So this is her second Christmas. And I want you guys to know, of all the toys that my youngest daughter, who is just a little over 14 months, 15 months, however old she is at this point. What is the thing that she enjoyed playing with the most tonight? What would you guys like to take a guess? Any of the major toys that she has?
No, the boxes or the wrapping or the bags.
Nope. Mike?
What toy did she want to play with?
What did she enjoy playing with the most tonight?
Your face.
A potato that was sitting on the table.
Okay.
A potato and a roll of duct tape. And I was like, man, I'm so excited that we spent hundreds of dollars on your toys. And you played with a potato tonight.
Have you all seen that viral video? This was a year or two ago of someone recorded their kid, I want to say a 3-year-old maybe, opening a present, and they just wrapped up a banana. They thought
Yes.
it was going to be
Yes.
and
Yep.
the kid was so genuinely excited.
I think it was. I think it was.
Banana.
I think it was an avocado.
It was maybe somebody did. I swear one did it with a banana too.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this is probably more of a thing.
The
than I thought.
avocado kid loved the avocado. He's like,
Yeah.
an avocado, thanks.
Oh my
you
God.
so
Now I got to
much.
start this.
I've always wanted an avocado.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep, I'm going to wrap a banana and an avocado for Evelyn next year, and we'll see.
Perfect.
We'll see what they like. Oh, so I'm excited because guess what we've got tonight? We've got our SSPOD Shoutout. Our SSPOD Shoutout, hashtag SSPOD Shoutout. It's an opportunity to recognize somebody in our field doing something awesome, and it goes to Sean Sweeney. Do you know who Sean Sweeney is?
No, but hi, Sean.
Sean will be featured on Jeopardy on Friday, January 7th. So by the time this episode airs, hopefully Sean has unseated the current champ, Amy Schneider, I believe is her name. But no, Sean is also the speech techie. He's one of the SLP bloggers. So shout out to Sean being on
awesome.
Jeopardy.
Not
I
bad.
want to watch now.
I know. It's what time does Jeopardy air for you guys? It's 7:30
I
here in
have no
Cincinnati.
I have no idea.
No, Mike. What time's it air in Philly? 7 or 7:30?
7.
7. See, Mike will know the outcome
It's
before it
probably
even airs.
7-6 Central because that's what the TV always says.
It's 7:30 here in Cincinnati, Michelle.
So why is it 7:30 and 7?
All right, so let me
By
put on my
Mike.
nerdy TV glasses. So Jeopardy is a show that is in syndication, and what they do is they sell it to local markets. It's not owned by ABC, NBC, or Fox or CBS. So they go into different markets and they say, would you like to own Jeopardy in your market? And the TV market or TV station is like, we're the local ABC. Yes, we do. And then they decide who's going to be run first, Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune.
Okay.
So it is market to market.
I have learned something new. I appreciate that, Matt.
Same thing with like the Ellen Show and all of the talk shows. They're all the same way. They get bid on by everybody. So
Okay.
yeah,
Good to
there
know.
you go. Yep. And we have our due process. SSPOD due process is an opportunity, or hashtag SSPOD due process. It's an opportunity for somebody to bring up something to us to let us weigh in. And then also you at home can also email in your reaction or go to the Discord, discord.speechsciencepodcast.com. All right. So here's the due process. It's from Lindsay through an email. It says, hey, gang, how would you handle a disconnect between your team and you when it comes to AAC use? I have a student who is competent in touch chat, is a competent touch chat user, but when they are in stressful situations, such as a science or social studies classroom, or situations where they do not have the vocabulary, they begin to shut down, don't use the device, and begin using behaviors. The team thinks the student is not capable of being in the classroom or using the device, but in one-on-one sessions, the student is able to self-correct and edit sentences in touch chat. How would you guys handle it going forward?
That's a good one.
Yeah. Hey, it's actually the most detailed due process we've got. Forevermore, we want more of these. Thank you, Lindsay, for writing in. So that's a good question. How do you handle a disconnect in your team when you, as the therapist, are seeing one thing, but the team is seeing something else in a completely different setting? I mean, we talk about generalization all the time.
Did she mention who all is on the team? What professionals or no?
Let's see. Disconnect between you and your team. The team thinks the student is not capable of being in the classroom. So no, it does not say.
So it's probably the primary teacher.
I'm assuming. It says in the classroom versus in one-on-one session. So I'm assuming one-on-one is with Lindsay.
Either SPED or with the SLP.
Hey, what I always say is if the child's able to do it one-on-one, they're able to do it in any environment. You know, if they're doing it, if they're proving competency in that one-on-one session, it's really up to them to figure out why it's not happening in the classroom. What's the difference? What's happening? What prompts are needed to self-regulate in that environment? But this student has already displayed competency. And
self-correction and editing.
So now it's a matter of environment, not ability to be in the classroom. It's the matter of transitioning skills from one environment to the next.
Coaching them into that new environment.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's it, Mike. You need to work on generalizing those skills if they've already showed mastery in one setting.
But I
So
think the question is, how do you handle the disconnect between your team
okay.
and you?
Here's an idea. I don't think she said.
Besides beating them senseless with the device until they listen to you, I don't know.
I don't think she said in the email, but are you able to do push-in support where you can go into the classroom and maybe you can kind of be the connection to see where that disconnect is? Like, what is it? What setting is it? What part of that setting is the breakdown for this child? Is it they're overwhelmed sensory-wise? There could be a factor that's not speech related that we need some support from OT or PT to help them in that environment to access the device. And then it also could be opportunity or where the device is, or is it accessible or available to them at the times we want it to be available? So I don't know. I think there's a lot of things, and how much does that team know the device? So depending what device it is, you can always pull in the contact your rep from, Dynavox or PRC because
well, it says touch chat, so I mean it could really be.
Did say that.
It could really be anything: a Forbes device, an iPad device. I mean, it could be.
Okay, well, the team needs to know how to use the device.
And also get some good videos of the child using it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Get some good videos and share with the team. Come up with a plan.
Mm-hmm. And then get in there and observe, even if you're not right with the kid, to try to observe a little bit or ask them if they can record, of course, with parent permission in the classroom too, to see what the difference is, compare them.
There you go.
I like it. Lindsay, we hope that helps. And if you've got a due process, hit us up, SSPOD due process. That's the hashtag. You can do it on the Discord. You can email us. You can do everything. Hey guys, does my microphone sound a whole lot louder now?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Evidently the beginning of the show, I wasn't even on the right microphone. So, hey,
there you go.
Not like we haven't done.
Still being picked up though.
We haven't done an episode in 8 weeks. So that is okay. All right. So let's jump my hot mic. Thank you, Mike. Let's jump right in. So I saw this article from thehill.com. It says 2 key predictions around special education in 2022. And I thought it hit home perfectly for us. It says these predictions speak directly to the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on the public schools, their students and teachers, and on student outcomes. And it is from Sam Farmer on January 4th, 2022. So prediction number 1, I want to hear your guys' reaction. A record-breaking number of special education evaluations will be completed for students without disabilities or learning and thinking differences.
Well, if people are actually referring for all the kids that are going to show specific skills being behind, then evaluations are likely to go up. Does that mean there will necessarily be more kids who qualify for IEPs? I don't know, but I wonder if there'd be more for 504 plans.
Well, they say in a study by McKinsey and Company, students only learned about 67% of the math they were should have, and 87% of the reading, which breaks down to about a 3-month loss in math and a 1.5-month loss in reading. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it was more than that.
No,
3.5 months. Yeah, because I'm looking at that now too.
Yep. So they're talking about how they're going to be referred for catch-up period. So we need to be prepared for that.
Like as RTI SLPs. Style. There's going to be more RTI.
More RTI.
Well, of course, the reading is super important, but a lot of these are just your straight up academic skills that they get graded on, that teachers teach to the test, to these state standardized and federal standardized tests. So it's a lot of
but not, we're lumping teachers here with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we have
speech science. We love you teachers sometimes.
Yeah. Well, no, teachers are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Like teachers are, this is just the way education is in this country is test, and everything gets a score. And it all has to, and teachers are pressured to make sure their students perform well on standardized testing. So they're just, that it's just part of the system.
Now, what about now though, when so much of that standardized testing, especially 2021 was just not done. Just
right.
The state testing, all that stuff was just not done.
They're going to bring that back real fast because there's way too much money to be made and there's way too much funding based on those standardized testing. So there's 1 year maybe when things were crazy. That's going to come right back, and those kids who missed the tests are going to get tested out the wazoo just as normally. So we have to differentiate between true important life skills, speech skills, language skills, literacy skills, and skills that they're going to forget 2 weeks after they graduate.
If schools use their already, this is a quote from the article, use their already stretched thin special education resources for students without disabilities, 2022-2023 school year will see a special education shortage of sizable proportions adversely affecting students with learning and thinking differences.
And I did think it was important, that next part below what you just read, where I made a note on this, was where the article says, what we remind our families in the schools, every family is entitled to request an evaluation for their child. So if a family is requesting an evaluation, it's just going to add to that backlog, right? Now, quote from the article, nonetheless, if a crisis involving special education resource exhaustion is to be averted, it will make good sense for schools to remind parents that inadequate instruction is a disqualifying consideration for special education eligibility under IDEA. So that's an important distinction to make, that a kid being behind because they missed 6 months, a year of solid instruction because of this pandemic is not a special education candidate if they were not exposed and taught the material.
I believe in Ohio on the multifaceted evaluation, the MFE or the ETR, I believe that is section 3 or section 4, where there's a bunch of check boxes and they say, is this due to a lack of English proficiency? Is this due to a lack of, instruction or direct instruction? And there's a third yes, no box, and I forget what that is as well.
And just what I mentioned earlier, I think we're going to see more than, the prediction is that evaluations will go up. I agree with that. The interventions, the treatments, the IEPs, I think we're going to see a whole lot more RTI and other.
We've talked on air here before that RTI sucks. The way that we do it. I mean, not the process. The process.
Equivalent of RTI or equivalent interventions.
I mean, we should be doing it better, and unfortunately, most of us do not do it correctly.
And really, in reality, the services that the vast majority of these kids really need is just some mental health counseling.
True.
And some reintegration and some social for the social distancing they dealt with.
Well, it's interesting you say the word reintegration. I'll just throw this in real quick. As a military family, the military uses the term reintegration whenever a soldier comes home from a deployment.
Makes sense.
And so there's a reintegration period, and they even talk about reintegrating into not just into your unit back here work-wise, but like reintegrating into your family. And so I think that's such a good point, Mike, that these kids are reintegrating into.
Are you telling me that my student that spent 6 months at home, I shouldn't just not worry about dropping them in the middle of the classroom, and then I should probably write them up for misbehaving and doing things that they thought were okay at home? Are you saying that I'm doing it wrong? I have an administrator. Hey, that brings me right into prediction number 2. If schools don't prioritize teachers' mental health, the achievement gap will widen dramatically for students with learning and thinking differences. And I think this feeds right back into what we've talked about for years about burnout. I was just talking to an SLP the other day in Ohio who is trying to quit a second job because the need is so much in their school district that they now have to commit full time to the school district to take the stress off of other SLPs that they work with.
Yeah, this has been true since before the pandemic. So the pandemic highlighted, just like it did with our frontline healthcare workers. It highlighted just how important teachers are, and parents were introduced to the classroom through virtual school. And now we see firsthand how teachers are underpaid, undervalued, and underappreciated.
Did you see under the second prediction, the part that I highlighted? Here's a quote from the article. Nearly half of public school teachers who quit their jobs after February 2020 did so because of pandemic-related challenges, including working longer hours, navigating the remote environment, and special education teachers who have been leaving the field at almost double the rate of general education teachers, citing stress, low pay, and risks to their own physical health.
There you have it.
58% report burnout.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are you telling me? The free coffee truck and the once a month donuts are not enough to cover up the gaping stress of my life of trying to handle
and
why
here's
my
a mug
students
with
have
your
lost.
school's logo on it.
That if you leave, you must return back to the front office, please.
Yep.
Please give us a $5 deposit. You will get it back when your mug is returned. I mean, we talk about this all the time. And Mike, you're right. We've been talking about this in the before times when we could actually high five and handshake, that burnout is so hard to combat. And now we're seeing it in all areas. We're seeing it in vocational jobs. We're seeing it in fast food jobs. We're seeing it all over. And unfortunately, if somebody decides to walk out of Amazon or McDonald's because the burnout happens, our food or our products are delayed. If a teacher walks out of a school because of burnout, our kids suffer.
Yeah.
You got it, dude.
We fixed our problems.
On a connected note, but did you see that the author bio of these two predictions is an autistic adult?
Yeah, diagnosed later in life.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that a lot on Facebook lately.
Of adults being diagnosed later.
Adults finding out that they have autism later on in life.
Huh.
So we want to know your facts, not your facts, your thoughts, your opinions on the two key predictions. Head up to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, or email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. The second article, Michelle, we talked about our intelligibility percentages. Why are they changing?
I came across this looking through ASHA articles, and this is from October. But I thought it was really interesting because I remember quite well learning kind of the basics, general rule of thumb, as the article even says, that the intelligibility, speech intelligibility of kids. Tell me if you guys were taught the same thing. Matt and I went to grad school together, but roughly 50% intelligibility at about 2 years old, 75% intelligibility at about 3 years old, 100% intelligibility. Of course, they can still make errors at about 4 years old. And I did not know until looking through this article that those are based on only parent report. Those norms that I've been using since I was a grad student are only based on parent report. And parent report is essential, but parent report is a familiar listener, usually has context to what a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old wants or is talking about. And so that piece alone in this article kind of blew my mind. But did you guys get a chance to read? Because I have a couple other notes, but go ahead.
Yeah, I did not know that. It's really, when it's the parent, of course, that's just like you said, is that added context. And really, the whole point of intelligibility is for that unfamiliar listener to really build up that intelligibility when meeting new people and speaking in various environments. So I really found that really interesting. And I think it's something to always be aware of. And I think this is also an area that as technology gets more and more advanced, where technology could really be introduced in terms of assessing an individual's technology. I know there's already several computer-based speech intelligibility tests, but now with text-to-speech or speech-to-text, whatever, it's going to get more and more advanced.
Well, and I'm seeing some of that just in my personal life with my now as of yesterday, 3.5-year-old son, that even our Alexa device, right?
Yeah.
He's not completely clear in his speech. He's 3.5, but Alexa can understand him when I don't expect the device to understand him. And he'll be playing a song that he wants to play.
Alexa's learning. The part that I took away from this was, and as you said, Michelle, we learned that 100% intelligibility comes at a younger age, that it was at, what was it, at 78 months where they cross into that 95th percentile. Mm-hmm. Is where I would feel like 95 on up, I feel like is you're at that almost 100 percentile. But when we're talking about a 75-month-old child, you know, we're talking about a 6-year-old. I apologize, a 6-year-old.
I also laughed that they
had to do the math there.
They gave it all in months, which at least they were consistent. But it's like the joke of there's a range when people start referring to their kid's age in months.
Yeah.
And I laugh when people are like, I have a 24-month-old. And I'm like, you have a
but at, right. But at 6.5 is when we should be assuming complete perfect intelligibility.
And,
I mean,
well, the key on that. So what I took away from this, Matt, and I kind of cut you off.
Correct me, because I work with middle school and high school kids. I did 1 year of a tour duty in the preschool and I hated it and never went back.
But you have 3 children. So you've experienced the intelligibility piece as a familiar listener in your own home. And as a familiar listener, probably fits a little better with that 50, 75, 100.
Correct.
By the time your oldest turned 4, you probably understood everything he said.
Yeah. He's got a tongue thrust now, by the way. But yes, I understand.
Okay. But like you have context. You probably understood most all of what he says with some errors, just like adults. But what I took away is that when I'm explaining in speech intelligibility to my patients' families, I need to remember to explain to them, you as a parent are going to be able to understand a lot more. You're a familiar listener. But more review of research, this study being done at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and they said they recruited naive adult listeners for this study. So they recruited people to observe the intelligibility of these children with single word and multi-word utterances. And what it came out was, it's just like you said, it's pushed a little later. You know, that 50% is not till closer to 4 years old, roughly. 75% intelligibility is closer to 5 years old. And you're not going to get close to what Matt just described, 100% intelligibility until the child is about 7. And that's first or second grade. So reminding parents.
I was muted. I apologize.
Oh, go ahead. I saw you moving your mouth, but I was trying to fill in a little bit. But reminding parents and families, hey, our goal is to improve their intelligibility, but that's going to be a little different when you go in the circles of connection around that child, like their close bubble circle, to people they see every week, to people they see every month, to people they only see at different times.
This will be linked in the show notes, but I also think it's important for our clinicians that are testing these kids at the young age, that a lot of times as parents, we have a tendency to compare, and we're all parents of young children. We compare our children to the best of the kid. I mean, it's, we want our kid to succeed. And I love my oldest to death, but I compare how he does on the soccer field, not against kids that are similar in size, but against the best on the field. And I'm like, oh, he's slower than that kid. How do we get faster? Well, that kid could also be the top percentage person in his bracket. You know what I'm talking about? So when we look at intelligibility, we're looking at the age of 48 months, the 90th percentile at the multi-word phrase. That is the 95th percentile. So when we're talking about kids that test, we're not talking about above average kids. We're talking about the top 5% of kids are at 90% or higher. And I think you're right. I think that helps. And then when we talk about going back to burnout, our clinicians need to kind of have this in the back of our minds also about deciding who is on a caseload and who's not on a caseload, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's like using the Goldman Fristo with a middle school kid. They get 2 errors wrong. All of a sudden they're in the 40th percentile, or no, I'm sorry, like the 20th percentile, you know? And if they get 3 errors, I think it's like 8th percentile.
Which is why I learned that lesson kind of the hard way, Matt, when I was in my first year, my CFY.
Yeah.
And I put those percentiles real nonchalantly in one of my reports, my IEPs, about at the time, middle school student who had special needs and multiple diagnoses. But thankfully, his mom asked a question in the IEP meeting and was like, wait a second, I thought he was doing well on his speech, because she read it and went, what in the world, with this age equivalent and this percentile rank. And I had to be put on the spot to explain that and say, wait a second, if you miss 3 things, you're here. And I learned there's times, especially with special needs students, that you don't need to give those you don't give them without an explanation.
Right.
That's what I should say.
Well,
yeah.
I use the Goldman-Fristow as a phonemic inventory, and thanks to MT Mary SLP on Twitter, I have also changed the wording. I no longer use informal assessment, as she says, hey, can we please get rid of informal assessment? If you're assessing them and using your clinical judgment, it is formal. It's just perhaps not standardized. Don't lower your impact by claiming informal for what you do.
I think you mentioned this last episode, right?
So right.
What do you call it?
I used it actually in my last report. I called it a dynamic assessment for language and an observational assessment for articulation. But if I'm going to be doing an observational assessment, I'm also doing a phonemic inventory with the Goldman-Fristow as an outline, because I know those percentages are way off. What are you doing at home? SpeechSciencePodcast.com, SpeechSciencePodcast@gmail.com. Let us know how that affects you. And Michelle, leading into the interview for this week with PresenceLearning, we talk about telepractice. We have the giveaway, so make sure you're over at giveaway.speechsciencepodcast.com. Enter your name and email address, and that will go, I believe, for 45 days or about 6 weeks. So the end of February, I believe, is that timeline. So yeah, February 28th is when we will shut down that and draw a winner. You're listening to Speech Science.
And now for our regular research review, brought to you by the Informed SLP. The Informed SLP releases a monthly newsletter that brings you plain language reviews of only the newest, most clinically applicable research, keeping you up to date on advances in the field and saving you tons of time. So let's get to it.
You say mild. I say mild. We all say mild. This is a review of the article, You Say Severe, I Say Mild, toward an empirical classification of dysarthria severity, published in the Journal of Speech, Language, and Hearing Research. And this article is open access. How do you determine dysarthria severity in your clinical practice? Intelligibility? Resonance? How about listener effort? All of that or none of it? Stepanchik et al. Investigated clinician-based severity ratings of normal, mild, moderate, severe, and profound when used to classify dysarthria severity in people with ALS. And it turns out that experienced clinicians are very good at judging the severity of dysarthria. Cue the collective sigh of relief from acute care SLPs who've written moderate dysarthria based on perceived severity alone. Clinician-based severity ratings had great intra-rater and inter-rater reliability and were valid when compared against 4 other severity measures: percent intelligibility, speaking rate, intelligible speaking rate, and listener effort. For example, as intelligibility scores worsened, so did severity ratings. While intelligibility is often used as a proxy for dysarthria severity, intelligibility alone may not be sensitive enough to detect subtle speech changes. Listener effort was more accurate in distinguishing between clinician-rated severity groups at the mild end of the continuum, and it yielded the strongest validity for classifying severity. So, don't put all your eggs in one basket when rating severity. Here's a simple way to measure listener effort during your next motor speech assessment. First, obtain a reading sample using stimuli like the rainbow passage or the grandfather passage. Then, for each sentence, use a visual analog scale to rate how effortful was it to understand the client, 0 being most effortful and 100 being the least effortful. Then calculate the average visual analog scale score and use the following table to determine severity. Normal, VAS score greater than 90. Mild, 44 to 90. Moderate, 25 to 43. Severe, 12 to 24. And profound, less than 12. And this visual analog scale sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? VAS scores like this one have been found to align well with intelligibility scores as well. No time for audio recording, ratings, or math? The good news is that if you have at least 2 years of experience working with individuals with dysarthria, then your use of adjectives like mild, moderate, or severe aligns well with other measures of severity. So don't overcomplicate it. Trust your gut.
Thanks for listening to this review. If you're interested in more, come visit us at www.theinformedslp.com. Tell us how you put the research into practice, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at The Informed SLP.
And welcome back to Speech Science. I'm Matt Hott, joined by Michelle Wintering.
How's it going?
And Michael McLeod.
What's up, buddy?
All right. So on the backside of the show, we're going to do one of my therapy sessions very quickly. We're going to play a quick game of Wordle. Michelle might come up with a 5-letter word. This is all audio on a podcast, so make it as entertaining as possible because the people at home are unable to see the screen. So, Mike, you can go first. Give me a 5-letter word. Any 5-letter word. Keep it clean. Cannot be a name. Cannot be a name.
Cannot be a name.
Wow. Man.
Wow is 3 letters. Does not work.
How about belong?
B-E-L-O-N. Too many letters, Mike.
Wait, hold on.
State. I like it.
Oh, I was doing the 6 down. I was doing down.
All right. So, Michelle, the T and the E are correct, but they are in the wrong place. All right, Mike, can you give us a 5-letter word to help us figure out what this mystery 5-letter word is?
What letters are correct?
T and E are in the word, but they are not in the location that was in the word state. So they are not in the 2nd or the 5th spot.
Oh, man.
Can I go?
Yes.
Yeah. It's audio, so we need help. Teach. All right. T-E-A-C-H. So the T is in the right spot. The E is in the wrong spot. A-C-H are not in the word.
Okay.
We have 4 chances left.
Oh, this is crazy.
This is what I do in my therapy sessions. This is
crazy.
This is so fun in therapy.
I love that you say this is crazy. So T is correct.
T is correct, and the E is in the wrong spot. So we now know the E is not in the 2nd spot, and it is not in the 5th spot.
Damn.
T-H-E
or A
R there.
Oh, well, A-C, okay, which are there?
T-H-E-I-R.
E-R. Okay.
E-I-R, yeah.
All right. So, okay, Michelle. We now know the T and the R are correct, and there is an E and an I, but the H is incorrect. So, Michelle, this is how I would do it in therapy.
right.
Let's look on the board. We see the E cannot be in the 5th spot. We know it cannot be in the 2nd or the 3rd spot. Where is the E?
2nd and 3rd. I'm trying to look
right before the R.
Yeah, it'll be in the 4th spot.
Yep.
So that means the I has to be where?
I'm writing it down.
I know, I'm writing it down too.
So at home, the I will either be in the 2nd or the 3rd spot. So let's come up with some words that start with T and end with ER and maybe start with TI.
Tiger.
Let's try it.
Tiger.
TIGER. And look at that. Wow. We solved it.
Wow.
I love this game already.
What is it called? Wordle?
Wordle. WORDLE. I use it with my vocabulary and language kids, and we start off our therapy sessions with it. And sometimes they last for about 15 minutes, and the kids really love it because, you know, it's a group activity. However, I did it this morning, and my one kid was like, how about a cat? And I was like, oh no, dude, cat's 3 letters. And he goes, oh no. Like, what's the Bengal mascot? It's like a big orange and black cat.
Oh.
And another kid was like, well, that's a tiger. And he's like, let's do tiger. And I was like, no, don't do tiger. Because I knew it was the right word. And they were all like, we're doing tiger.
Funny.
And
they guessed it on the first try.
Yep. My 15-minute therapy session was done in 1 minute when the kid was like tiger.
How do you find it online?
It's actually powerlanguage.co.uk/Wordle. So I just Google Wordle.
Okay.
I'll have the link. I'll have the link for you. It's a new word every day. So here's the helpful hint. If you're doing it,
I love that they guessed tiger.
I know, right? If you're doing this with your therapy kids, you have to open up the incognito browser. Because if not, it will save it on Google. It'll save it. And you'll be unable to do the puzzle again. So you have to do the puzzle in the incognito browser so you can do it with multiple groups in a day.
Nice.
Yeah, that's your little word away. So at this part of the show, as we're wrapping up, we do the ASHA spotlight, and it is our opportunity to look at something good or bad that ASHA is doing. It's very easy to point out some of the things that they're doing that make us question it. The things that they're doing positively, I am $300 poorer, and that is the ASHA spotlight. Remind yourself to go on in, and if you are holding your Cs, you got to renew them. I think the extension is January 31st?
Yeah, it's coming up soon. Guys.
And they also have a waiver that if you're financially unable to do it, you are able to request a waiver for your Cs. Are we all C holders here?
Of course.
I was having a discussion online, which I should never do, and about how everyone's mad that the Cs are required. And it's like, they're not required. It's just every job wants them. So, I mean, yeah, they're technically required, but not by ASHA.
Well, so it depends on your state. Some states require it for license.
Yeah.
What? What? For real?
Yep.
Says the guy licensed in one state and one state only. Is it really?
Sure is.
It depends
well,
on the state.
That's dumb. All right, now I agree. Now I'm back on the other side. That's stupid.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, I do appreciate that I have my Cs because it's made getting my license in different states easier because
I agree.
I've already met a certain bar. But I also know people who are not moving state to state and don't live in a state where it's required and don't have it anymore.
I just meant it's stupid.
Doesn't need it either.
I just meant it's stupid that a state would require the ASHA Cs.
Oh.
That's what I meant was stupid. Not that the Cs were stupid. I was on one of their billboards. I know it's not stupid. I was the power of the Cs.
That's right.
There you go.
All right. The music is playing underneath of us. That means the show is almost over. So, Michelle, you get to go first here. Non-therapy related, unless it's the Wordle game. What are you looking forward to in the next week or two?
Downloading Wordle. No.
Yep.
I have signed up both of my children for swim lessons.
Ooh, fun.
The local YMCA down the street from us. And
who is doing the swim lessons? Is it the policeman, the construction worker?
I'm confused.
Oh, man.
Oh, the YMCA. Now I get it. I used to work at a YMCA too. I taught swim lessons at a YMCA for about 6 years.
Did you have to wear the costume?
No. I wore a swimsuit because I taught swim lessons. Now, I mean, for a second, I thought you were asking like what my son was going to dress as, because that would be a fair question. Because he loves...
So you going as dragon, minotaur, or fish?
More likely firefighter, construction worker, police officer.
All right, that's fair.
But yes, so they will both, my daughter who just turned 1 and then my son who is 3.5, will both be doing some swim lessons. They're the parent-child swim.
Oh, okay.
And with COVID restrictions, it's a very small group, and
wonderful.
The instructor, which is good and bad, is not in the water, so they don't tell us what to do. But having taught those classes, even though years ago, I really wish they were in the water, because I know what to do with my kid. I've taught these swim lessons, but my kid doesn't always want to do them with me. Like they would like to do it with. They're sometimes more likely to listen to someone else.
I hate the idea of my kid drown. I mean, not that it's unique as a parent to not want your kid to drown. I would be the worst person to be in the pool with my kid, because I'd be like, his head's under the water, get him up. That's why they have like glass, and I have to sit behind the glass that my kids can't hear me at their swim lessons. But that'll be fun. Swim lessons are good. Get the kids safe around the pools. Mike, non-therapy related, what are you looking forward to this week?
Oh man, probably that's a great question, since everything revolves around therapy. Just some one-on-one baby time, man. No babysitter, no nothing. Just going outside and having fun with the baby.
Wonderful. For myself, over break, I forgot to mention this. My sons and I finally finished the Butler County Donut Trail. So this was something we started before the pandemic. We started this before the pandemic, and then we had to take a break because I got diabetes and then the pandemic. So we had to take a small break, but we finally finished it. So we're going to go turn in our cards and get shirts this week, I think. So
nice. You get shirts?
Yeah.
Have a picture of the shirt.
So the nice thing is that by doing the donut trail over 2.5 years, I'm pretty much in the same size shirt that I was when I started the donut trail. If I would have done the donut trail in like a week, it would be definitely a different shirt size. I can guarantee that. Because I gained so much weight from the donuts, Michelle.
Yep, that's fair.
Okay. All right. Anything else before we wrap this baby up?
Wrap it up.
All right. We want to hear from you, so make sure you write in. It is speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us over at the Discord, discord.speechsciencepodcast.com. We're going to have a new shirt. We've been designing it right before the show. It is a Be a Willow shirt that'll hopefully be up by the end, before the show is even on air. And you can find that at merchandise.speechsciencepodcast.com. And of course, did you say it's a 1 year to Presence Learning?
A 1 year subscription.
1 year subscription. Go over to giveaway.speechsciencepodcast.com.
Or I guess 1 year access. I'm not sure if you call it a subscription, but
1 year access. It'll all work. So we want you to go over there, and we'll also have those links in the show notes. Our opening music was Please Listen Carefully by Jazar, licensed under an attribution and share alike license. Bump music was County Fair Rock, copyrighted John Deku. Find his music at soundcloud.com/dirtdogmusic. The Informed SLP was At the Count by Broke for Free, licensed under a Creative Commons attribution. And the closing music, it's A Slow Burn by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under a Creative Commons attribution license. In the immortal words of Janice Wright, always be a willow. The oak looks strong until the storm, and then it'll crack under the storm. The willow will bend and then return to its graceful form when the pressure is relieved. For fellow willows, Michelle and Michael, I am Matt. Until next week, so long, everybody.
Bye. Not bad, guys.
Hey.
Speech Science is edited and produced by MWH Production. Please follow Speech Science on Twitter at Speech Science PC and like our page on Facebook. And rate and subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts.